With us this afternoon, we have the inimitable Keith Pompey from the Philadelphia Inquirer. Keith, how you doing?
I'm doing well. What's up, fellas?
So I'm a little disappointed, quite frankly, because I saw you. You are now blown up nationally. I saw you on NBA TV this week wearing the nicest suit I've ever seen you wear. Where's the suit?
You
We didn't
talking,
get a suit, Keith.
you talking about my velvet jacket?
That's right.
What is this velvet? Like, nah.
We get dressed down Keith Pompey for the interviews.
Yes. From now on, all interviews must be wearing a tuxedo.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It's funny. I remember one time I did an interview and I was like all overdressed, and I look over and the guy has on a pit hoodie, right? So I said to myself, "Okay, commercial break." Everything off, and it was like, "Hey, here I am."
All right, Keith. Tell your family you're not going to be able to spend New Year's Eve with them. We'll do a New Year's Eve show. We'll all wear tuxes. We'll ring, we'll ring in the new year. We'll have a ball come down, the whole thing.
He doesn't
Jason
seem like
was
he's
looking
on
at you
board
like
with
you're
that.
crazy.
Yeah, right.
I'm guessing
You
he's not.
You didn't check with my wife on that.
I know, right? I know, right?
So, Keith, tell me, this Sixers team playing hard, playing shorthanded, so many storylines going on. You tell me, where are we going to start here?
Wow, I guess we have to talk about them playing shorthanded. I mean, I think the biggest thing right now, I mean, you look at it, they started off great. They were they lost one game. No, actually, they lost two games, and then they were rolling, and then COVID hits, and the bench played well. They put Paul Reed in there, other guys in there. Maxi's been playing out of his mind, but it just seems like because of the COVID situations, a lot of these guys are having to play extended minutes, and you can see that they don't have any legs, especially in the second half of games.
Well, the good news is that because all these guys that we don't know very well are now playing a lot, maybe it helps them down the road. And it's certainly given you a lot of fodder for great stories. Has it been more interesting for you as a writer to now get to explore all these guys that we didn't know before the season started, or certainly didn't think we're going to play this much?
It has been, but it is funny because as a writer right now, as good as they're like playing, it just seems like the game isn't the story anymore. It's kind of like, well, who's here? Okay, Tobias is coming back. Isaiah Joe isn't playing. The one thing was Doc got his thousandth win, right? But aside from that, it's like, Embiid's not playing. So it becomes a lot of different side stories. But I mean, the one thing I will say, as far as like the fodder and everything, is when you look at it, you say Andre Drummond is really playing well, right? He's balling. Then you look at George Niang. I mean, here's a guy having, I know it's still early, but he's having like a career year, like by far. He's playing a whole bunch of more minutes, so you think that it's going to, remain the same. And then I'll be honest with you, Paul Reed. He was impressive as on the defensive end. 2 games in a row against Giannis and against DeMar DeRozan. So you're saying to yourself like, okay, these guys can play. I mean, they're a whole lot better than they were given credit for. Now, again, I know the Sixers hyped them up, but you can hype a guy up, but if he's not seeing any action, it's kind of like, actions speak louder than words, in the past. So yeah, there are certain guys that you're saying to yourself like, yeah, this is great for
Keith,
them.
I've been more on the Tyrese Maxey train than Jeff and you at times. 33 points last night in the loss, 64 points, 9 assists in the last 2 games. Did have a tough turnover at the end of the game, though. I know Jeff is still not sold. I texted him last night, although I'm probably a bigger fan than all of you. I thought the MVP chants for him at the end of the game were a bit much. Where are we with Tyrese Maxey? Is he getting to the point where they won't put him in a deal because they think he's something more for them now?
See, it's kind of weird though, because like if he's playing well as good as he is, then some teams are going to want him in the deal, See, that's the problem. The thing with Tyrese Maxey, he's a good guard, great guard. The thing that gets me is like the 2 games that he scored 31 and 33 points were games that Joel Embiid didn't play. So when Joel is in there, Tyrese, as good as Doc Rivers wants him to do it, go down there and jack up stuff and do this. Nah, bro, you got to get the ball to to Joel. Now, if Tobias is playing and Tobias is like in the motion, like he's really about sharing the ball and doing stuff like that, it works. But when it's Joel, you got to give Joel his touches. So I think with Joel's on the floor, it may go back to the way it used to be. But it's good. I mean, Maxi is showing that he can play. He's showing that he's improved. But I got to see him do it. With Joel on the floor. Now, I will say this, y'all. Um, yesterday, yesterday morning, or 2 days ago, I get a text from a friend of mine saying, "Man, I told you Maxi is the second coming of AI." I said, "Dude,
Isn't that a
come
bit
on, man."
much? Like we're
Yeah, it
hearing
was
that now.
way
Can
much.
people,
Like, I mean,
can
like,
people
and I
just
had a question
enjoy?
mark. He was like, "Huh? What do you mean?" I
Can
like,
people
dude, come on, don't do that to the kid.
can
Please
people
don't do
just
that to the kid.
enjoy the guy playing well without putting these expectations of he's the next coming of something? He's a player on this team who's willing to shoot without any fear. And after what we've gone through for the last couple of years, it's nice to see somebody do that.
Yeah, but the thing is, we got to see what it's going to look like when Joel comes back too. Though. We'll have to see that.
Wait, the guy, I'm not asking for a name, but the guy that sent you this text must have been leading that MVP chant last night too. I mean,
It could have been. I mean, but it was him, and I also got another guy who said it too. So it was just like, yo, it was ridiculous. I didn't even want to respond. Like, I mean? Like,
the
come on,
problem
man.
that I see with Maxi is, yeah, he's proven he can play in the NBA. The problem is, I don't see that he's proven that he can be a point guard. That to me, he's an undersized shooting guard, and that may be my age coming out because I'm used to traditional roles on a basketball court, and now there's people that are playing multiple positions, but I don't see him as a guy who's a distributor. I don't see him as a 9, 10 assist uh, per game guy, and I don't see him yet being a pick and roll guy, which is what I think they need ideally to play with Joel as long as Joel can be healthy.
I agree with you. But the one thing I will say is the last couple of games he has gotten better. The one thing is I know he had one bad turnover at the end of the game, but like when you think about it, the ball is better in his hands in regards to turnovers than it was with Ben, and Joel and people like that. The thing that's different is what they used to do is he would bring the ball up and he would hand the ball off to Joel or Tobias and he would go over to the corner. Well, now they're letting him initiate more, and now he doesn't get a lot of assists. You are correct, but it just seems like they're initiating more with him. He's the type of guy I feel like, if he was a lottery pick, he would be the guy that you just built the team around him. But right now, it just seems like when Joel comes back, like you said, you need that type of point guard that's going to give him the ball in certain spots, make him happy, things like that. But at the same time, you can't knock him for what he did. I mean, 31 and 33, and we're talking about before he did. I mean, it's not like he hasn't done that before, but this time he did it when they had other quality type players on the floor with him.
One of the things that's amazing to me is watching coaches who were point guards and how they deal with their point guards. They spend a lot of time on the broadcast. I know you're at the game, so you don't see the broadcast, focusing on the interactions between especially Maxi and Rivers. And Rivers seems to be hard on him when he's talking to him. What have you seen of the relationship between Doc and Maxi?
I mean, you're right. Doc is hard on him, and not just Doc. Everyone is, but Maxie is kind of like a sponge. It's funny because Maxie kind of likes it. He loves it. He was talking about his father, and he was saying like, no matter what people say, my dad like was the hardest on me. So, there's nothing. And I think that he's the type of guy, he wants to get better. He knows that Doc is trying to make him better. And he looks at it like this is a former point guard who was a one-time All-Star, who played with a lot of great players. And if you think about it, Doc was also a scoring guard when he was in Marquette, and he basically, just changed his whole approach to the game once he became a pro. So I think Maxi just looks at it and is learning from it. But Maxi's a great kid, man. I mean, I have to say that, like, a lot of guys get on him during the games, they get on him at practice, and he just like, okay, I'll do what you want me to do. I'll do what you want me to do.
Why I'm on the Maxi train. Anyway, so tell me about the health of the guys potentially coming back. We've seen Seth Curry come back after his ankle. Tobias Harris came back last night after COVID. Joel Embiid's still out. Matisse Thybulle still out. Isaiah Joe's still out. Where are we on the return of some of these guys potentially, if there's anything, the depth of this team now and going forward?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they can all of them are slated to come back during this 6-game road trip, of course. I mean, because, what was it, like they got 10 days out. I think like most of them are like 4 or 5 days out. So they can come back. The question is, do you want these guys to just fly out and meet the team? Now, I think that you kind of sort of you do, just because of just because, like, you're probably going to struggle on these trips and on this trip, and you're going to want them back. Now, the thing is, Tobias, there was times when Tobias looked rusty, and there was also times where Doc just said, okay, forget it. You're going to get a workout. You're going to
He
play
looked a
the
little
entire
winded
second
to me at
quarter.
the end. He looked a little winded to me at the end of the game.
Yeah, he was winded. He was winded. So, but here's the thing. So I'm not really concerned with Matisse, because Matisse is a great, seems to be in better shape than Tobias, right? My concern is Embiid. Like, what is he going to do? Just sitting in the house, and then all of a sudden, is he going to be able to play 37 minutes like Tobias did? I don't know. I don't know. So to me, that's the major question mark, is what type of shape Embiid is going to be in when he gets back.
Well, and with regard to Embiid, he's got some big matchups coming up. I mean, one of them is potentially playing against Jokic in a week. Is he going to be ready for that? And have you heard anything about whether or not he's had symptoms, or is this that he's just been out?
Oh no, he's had symptoms. Joel and Tobias have had symptoms. Like, they both were symptomatic. From what I was told, is that Tobias, for like the first 4 days, he couldn't really get out of the bed. He was sick. Like, he just didn't, it was bad. The same thing for Joel. Joel is symptomatic. Isaiah Joe really wasn't. Matisse, it was weird. Like, Matisse, initially everybody thought it was just, contact tracing, and now he's, they're trying to, no one's saying anything, but he hasn't came back yet. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's one of those things. So yeah, the two, they were very symptomatic, Tobias and Joel.
So, Keith, in addition to reading about the game last night, I got to read about who was at the Wells Fargo Center yesterday in another one of your stories. Ben Simmons was there, and then Rich Paul sent out a statement afterwards. Tell me about the Ben Simmons situation right now, because then we could talk about Rich Paul and what's going on afterwards.
It's a sad situation, right? It really is, because it's one of those things where you say to yourself, does Daryl Morey and the ownership group and Elton Brand regret that they didn't trade him at the trade? I mean, at the draft, right? Because this is becoming a circus, man. It's like, it's really predictable though. Everything that's happening, like, it's all right. I'm not coming. Well, you're not going to get paid. Okay, I'm coming. All right. Well, I'm not going to practice. Well, you're not going to get paid. Okay, I'm a practice. And then, this one was, on his schedule, they wanted him to go to the arena for the game and be a part of the team. Well, he went because he's trying to get paid. But at my point is, it's like, and I'm not just saying this like on the Ben Simmons situation. I think it's bad on both sides. And the reason being is, like, we're looking at this. Doc Rivers and the Sixers, at one point, they had the best record in the NBA. They were tied with the Golden State Warriors for the best record in the NBA. But all we're talking about is Ben Simmons being suspended, I mean, being fined, and it's like, it's one of those things where, I get it, but sometimes you think that they would have been better off to say, hey, look, I know you don't want to be here. We're going to work something out. You just come and go to the practice facility. You get workouts in right by yourself, and we'll keep it quiet, and then we'll move you. But no, it's like stuff is leaking out about him not doing this, him not doing that, and they want to fine him. So I think that what it's doing is taking away it took away from the early success that the Sixers had.
Yeah, but
So
the problem is that Rich Paul, I'm not blaming it all on Rich Paul. I'm not blaming it all on Simmons. I'm not blaming it all on the Sixers. But there's things that you can do, and there's a dangerous rail that they're touching, which is the potential of mental health issues. And Rich Paul is making this situation, in my mind, exponentially worse. That's the one thing you don't want to talk about publicly. And at least what I've seen of the Sixers is the Sixers saying, "Hey, we're willing to get him his help." Now, it wasn't helpful that it leaks out that he's not telling them what's going on. But Rich Paul coming out and giving the statement that he gave yesterday only hurts his client. There's no upside to that. To me, it's another situation of, and it's kind of like the Aaron Rodgers thing of this privileged attitude that Ben is now looking like the typical stereotypical athlete that's grown up his whole life and gotten everything he wants. And nobody ever wants to say to him, "Hey, Ben, it is on you too." And Rich Paul's statement attempts to absolve Ben Simmons of any of this being his fault.
they've done that all along. Ben said it's not his job to increase his value. I mean, that's been their tack the whole time. Like, Keith, are they working in good faith here? Like,
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I don't think it is his job to increase his value right about now. I mean, I don't think Ben Simmons. I think only thing Ben Simmons can do is lower his value by playing. Like, I think that everyone knows that, Ben Simmons is an all-star who struggles in the playoffs. Like, seriously. I mean, he's a good regular season guy when he gets out and goes. But like, I don't think teams are going to say, wow, he's out here playing, and then all of a sudden, oh yeah, he's dunking, he's making this, he's doing that. Like, no, everybody wants to wait and see what he does in the postseason. Now, with Ben Simmons, what he meant by that is, when you think about it, there were several teams who really wanted Ben. Like, but then Golden State, it's like prime. They wanted two players and four first round picks, for Golden State. So I think when he says it's not my job, it's saying like, dude, y'all had these offers, but y'all kept asking for more. Now, in regards to good faith, I think that he really wants out, and he's not the first person that wanted out. The problem is, and what people pinpoint is, he just signed that contract. So now you want out. These other guys, they either had another year left or they had an option coming up, and teams got rid of them quick, fast, in a hurry, because if they didn't trade them, they were going to lose them in free agency. But Simmons' situation is different when he has 4 years left on his deal. So it looked crazy because of that. But, when you look at it, he can't come back here and play. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, after last season, I mean, every game you go, have you guys been to a game yet?
Mhm.
yeah,
Because
we've heard it.
outside, you see the T-shirts they're selling. I mean, there's a different one. Like, each game, there's a different one. So
There's guys
it's
wearing
kind of like he
diapers.
can't come back, huh?
There's guys in the arena wearing diapers saying that
Yeah,
they're Ben Simmons, which I think is ridiculous. I think those guys are idiots. But I mean, you're right that he can't come back, but there's nothing that Rich Paul is saying that's helping him get to the conclusory area that is a trade.
And
And,
how
and
does
I
this
think that he's making it worse by making statements like he made last night that, the Sixers are making it worse for Ben. It's making his struggles harder. Well, if you're another team, the more that there was a point at which, whether you believe Ben or not, I'm sure that some of the ownership groups or front offices of teams that were considering trading for him were going, this is all part of, he just wants out. But there's got to be some front offices that are now sitting there going, the more this comes up, the more we got to worry about not only can we fix his shot and get him confidence, is there going to be a lagging problem long term with him? And is it worth trading whatever we have to trade to get him?
I mean, I agree. I agree 100%. I mean, because it's like if he's going to do this to the Sixers, what if he doesn't like it where I'm at? I can understand that. But at the same time, I think it goes both ways. I think there are certain free agents who are saying, "Dang, they keep leaking everything about this guy." You know what I mean? Like, yo, this is a scary situation.
Look, when
So
you're
I
throwing
think I,
mud,
I I think it looks bad on both parties.
when you're throwing mud, everybody gets dirty. And
Yeah,
that's just the way this is right now. And I don't see how, look, for people who say, they question whether or not he has mental health problems. We've talked about his fear of shooting. That is a mental health challenge. Like, whether or not he was public about it is a different story. And whether or not he is being public now so as to satisfy a requirement, like, I'm not here to question somebody's statement on their mental health, but I will say that Lane Johnson was out there publicly and accepted. And then you see how Ben handles this. And the way that this is being handled is why people don't want to speak up publicly, because it just becomes fodder as opposed to something that's actually productive for the athlete and the people. So I just don't see what's the resolution here. It seems to me the Sixers are going to have to blink first. Otherwise, they're just going to hold them and their asset continues to devalue.
yeah. The one thing that I think that Ben may have messed up at, um, I think when he came back, because when you think about it, like you come back and you think you're going to get paid. He came back and he's not getting paid. He's getting fined for doing this and doing that. And I think, like, to be honest with you, I mean, the Sixers are doing well publicly, publicly saying all the right things. But, if he would have stayed away, this circus would have been avoided. You know what I mean? They just would have been fining him. You know what I mean? Just fining him. But now that he's here, it's like, oh, Ben Simmons was in the building. He looked at videos. Oh, Rich Paul is talking about they're doing them bad. You know what I mean? And it's like he's not really getting any money. Like they're gonna say, hey, well, we're gonna want you to come on this road trip. He's not gonna want to do that. So
All right.
I
Well,
don't know.
before we let you go, because you have your own road trip to be going on for the next week or so, I want to talk about just quickly about two players who haven't played in a long time, since you seem to use his meme a lot. Michael Jordan. So I don't think there's anybody on the planet that more adeptly uses Michael Jordan crying on things than you do. So I
You're
don't know if
throwing
you had a
him a
chance
step.
to see what was going on with Scottie Pippen. Is Scottie Pippen ever going to let this go?
Nope.
Nah, he won't. And the one thing that I like Scottie Pippen at first, I was like, all right, Scottie, I understand. You know what? You feel bad. You understand. I understand you have a right to. But then what Michael Strahan said to him in the interview they had, Michael Strahan said, how do you want to be remembered? And he said, I want to be remembered as the greatest player or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. I'm like, oh no, bruh. Nah, you didn't go there. So like when he said that, I was like, wow. So he lost me. He lost me at the end. But the thing is, yeah, sometimes you gotta let it go. And who knows? It was Jordan's team. Scottie Pippen was a great player, Hall of Famer, one of the top 50 players, top 75 now. But it like you can't really get too mad at Michael Jordan when the documentary was his documentary. You know what I mean?
He was the producer.
Yeah, he was a producer. You know what I mean? He was a producer. And then, another thing is it's like, you come out and you know, Jordan leaves and you're mad because they don't give you the final play. They don't draw the play up for you. So it's kind of sort of like, when you're talking all this stuff, it kind of looks bad because people bring these other things up. You know what I mean? Like, well, if you were this great and if you were this and that, well, then how come they drew the play up for Tony Kukoc?
Keith, you're the writer, but I used to work in politics. They say don't pick a fight with people who buy ink by the barrel, and there is no way in the world that Michael Jordan runs what he does that Scottie Pippen will get the last word on that story ever. Scottie should just accept that.
He won't. He won't. Then Scottie will come out with another book.
Absolutely. Look, everybody keeps getting paid. Keith Pompey, very safe travels for you as you keep getting paid, traveling around the country, giving us all the Sixers news. Follow you at Pompey on Sixers, read you in the Philadelphia Inquirer, and we hope that you can focus on the court a little bit as opposed to everything off the court.
Hey, and man, keep those best and worst columns going. I love those things.
Oh, you do? It's
I
funny.
do.
That thing is not a lot, but it gets a lot of page views. People really get into that.
Jeff's into clickbait, so go for
And,
Yeah, right.
oh, no, just all right.
it. Keith, thanks so much, man. You had a great one.
All right, go Pitt, go Michigan, go Ohio State, go everywhere.
Hey.